specialist.
Alan, what do you want to be when you grow up? Your parents want you to become a doctor. Is that what you want to do? What do you like doing best at school? Alan? What about your friends? Do you like playing with them? Do you have any friends? I'll tell you what, Alan, I won't ask you any questions. You just say anything you want about anything you want. Alan?
You've not caught him on a particularly good day. He has his moods, you see. Clever people do, apparently.
When was the last time you heard him speak?
Not long ago, was it?
Oh.
People at the school we've talked to can't remember his saying anything for at least 2 years.
Yeah, well, he is very moody, isn't he?
That's right.
I'm sure he'll speak up when he wants something.
Some children are a bit quiet. They prefer to absorb silently the information we teach them. It doesn't mean they're not taking it all in.
The child psychologists we've consulted believe the likelihood is that he's experiencing profound mental turmoil induced by his sense of alienation from his surroundings, which could leave him emotionally repressed and embittered, possibly for life.
Let's hope so.
Why?
We've not produced a Booker Prize winner yet.
If, as seems likely, Alan is deeply unhappy, it's not something that concerns either Malcolm Fletton or his parents. Caught between Malcolm Fletton's faith in his methods and Alan's parents' ambitions for him, his chances of happiness seem remote.
I don't think it's important for kids to be happy. I think some kids are unhappy deliberately just to be provocative. No, I think the best thing to do is just ignore them.
Are you aware that the last 6 essays he's written have all been entitled Why I Hate My Parents?
Yeah, Mr. Fletton told us. He said they were extremely well written.
Does it not bother you that the experts we've consulted believe him to be suffering from severe mental stress?
No.
He should think himself lucky. We never had the education to be able to suffer from severe mental stress.
Alan Wendis is not the only highly dubious success that the Caroline Fletton School has produced. This is Neil Hughes. When he was 12, he was regarded at the school as one of its finest academic minds. In London, however, where he spent all his weekends, he was regarded as something entirely different, a playboy. From Friday to Sunday every week, he and the cousin he came to stay with indulged in 48 hours of constant, remorselessly extravagant, high living. Then, in March 1989, Neil Hughes' extraordinary double life came to an end. At the age of 12, he left the school, announcing that he had decided to retire. Since then, he has disappeared. Why? The answer, we believe, lies in this. A little black book that Neil Hughes sold to a school friend just before his sudden departure. In it, after page upon page of names and addresses of women, nightclubs and novelty stripograms, there is, on the inside of the back cover, an entry which reads S&G 4931692. That number, we discovered, is the telephone number of the computer line of the State and Global International Bank. Now, while they were living here in this luxury riverside apartment in London, Neil Hughes' cousin was working as a clerk at the State and Global International Bank. Hughes himself was a computer fanatic, a hacker, who had on many occasions, his contemporaries recall, boasted how he had hacked into the main computer at London's Heathrow Airport and rearranged an entire month's flight departures without anybody even noticing at the time. Did Neil Hughes hack into the State and Global International Bank's computer? Was the money that financed his and his cousin's lifestyle and his extraordinarily early retirement the result of a massive computer fraud perpetrated by him upon his cousin's employer?
Of course not. Our computer security facilities are more than adequate to cope with that sort of thing.
Are you aware that your former employee, the cousin of the known computer expert Neil Hughes, now lives in a luxury beach house on the island of Tobago?
What of it?
Well, it's just that he seems to have done tremendously well for himself in an extraordinarily short period of time.
Well, all that shows is what a good start in life a job with our bank can be, doesn't it?
Are you also aware that his cousin, Neil Hughes, has taken early retirement at the age of 13?
I fail to see what that has to do with us.
Well, didn't he and his cousin have a meeting with the bank's senior executives just prior to that retirement?
Yes. They came to the bank for investment advice. It's quite common for people who are about to retire to do that.
And in this particular case, was the bank giving the advice or taking it?
Really, Mr. Harper, I hardly think our bank could have learned very much from a 12-year-old, do you?
Meaning he didn't tell you how he'd done it?
Yes, he did. No, he didn't tell us how he hadn't done it, or indeed anything. He hadn't done anything and he didn't tell us about it, that's right.
Whatever Malcolm Fletton feels he is achieving here, he is not, at least on the evidence we've found, producing honest, happy, grateful, or even pleasant individuals. But perhaps the gravest indictment of Fletton's methods lies not with any of the children who were the beneficiaries of his attentions, but with one who wasn't, but who surely should have been. This is Stephen Green. At least, that's been his name for the last 25 years. For the 2 years before that, the first 2 years of his life, his name was Stephen Fletton.
I've always known I was adopted. My parents never kept that from me. But when I grew older, I wanted to find out why. So I traced my real mother and asked her what happened. She said that she hadn't wanted to give me up. That my dad, my real dad...
Malcolm Fletton.
That's right, yes. Well, he forced her to do it.
Why?
Because I couldn't read.
You couldn't read at 2 years old, so Malcolm Fletton gave you up for adoption.
Apparently, yes.
Have you ever spoken to him?
I tried once or twice. I phoned him, but it's useless.
Why?
Well, the moment you do something he calls splitting an infinitive, he slams the phone down.
Mr. Fletton, I understand you gave your 2-year-old son up for adoption.
Yes.
Because at 2 years old he couldn't read.
Yes.
Just like that.
No. It wasn't just like that. I'd given him plenty of warnings. On his first birthday, I gave him a year's notice. A whole year's notice. That if he wasn't making any sort of effort by the time he was 2, he'd have to go. It was his choice.
His choice?
Yes. I made it perfectly plain what I expected of him. He chose to defy me. He put me in an impossible position. I had no alternative but to get rid of him.
It may be a source of satisfaction to Malcolm Fletton that Mary and Gordon Wendis thoroughly endorse what he did.
Yeah, I think he did the right thing. It's what we would have done, isn't it?
I hope it's what we'd have done. The trouble is, when Alan was that age, we probably wouldn't have known what he was going to turn out like.
We hadn't had the education, you see.
For his part, Stephen Green seems quite happy with how life has turned out for him.
I like doing what I do. It's steady work. And I actually quite enjoy burying people, you know? Especially the clever bastards.